morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
It's Wednesday, and what's happened to America?
Bill, the voter turnout was abysmal. Yesterday.
Just pathetic.
And, Savannah at the top of that list. Van Johnson continuing to be the mayor here in Savannah. But I will tell you that Alicia Blakely posted on her social media yesterday that she's like, there's no way that I won my race and all of Van's candidates won. She's like, it doesn't make any sense. She's like, she wants an investigation. So we'll see how that goes. But very interesting day. I do think that Alicia Blakely did win against Pat Rossiter, which was kind of interesting because Van won in a landslide and Van was putting Pat Rossiter on his slate. So very interesting that that did not translate for him.
Disappointed that Pat didn't win. He would have been great for Savannah.
Yeah, but you guys reelected Curtis Pertee, who's done nothing for the South Side. So good for you guys.
Yeah, congratulations.
Nice
job.
Yeah, and Bryan County voted to have more taxes, SPLOST, and so did Effingham County. They voted to have a T-SPLOST. So I don't understand the vote for more taxes, but good for you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're doing so well financially under Bidenomics that you can afford all this.
Yeah. Carol Bell was also elected to her post, and that is the seat that Keisha Gibson Carter was in until she decided to run for mayor. And District 2, Dietrich Leggett. I mean, we pretty much all incumbents: Linda Wilder Bryan, Nick Palumbo in District 4, and Estella Shabazz. And I am very excited to say that Brian West won in Tybee. He is going to be really good for that city. Also, a friend, Tony Plew and Catherine Williams and Nick Sears winning those city council seats in Tybee. Pooler, actually, big change there. Karen Williams won her mayoral seat there. And then, of course, John Wilcher, who is an incumbent and also the son of the sheriff, won his city council seat there.
Good news.
As an incumbent. Yes, absolutely. And Aaron Higgins, who has been he got the most votes out of any city council person. And the reason for that is that he is super involved and he is always available to answer your questions. And he always, we had a huge issue in our subdivision and he was great to work with us on what our options were. And he empathized with us. So I really like him, but very, very interesting races. Anything you were surprised about, Bill?
I was just stunned at the races on the national level. I couldn't believe that Kentucky would reelect Beshear. I couldn't believe that Ohio would vote to murder babies. I couldn't believe a lot of the stuff that I saw where it just seemed like apparently we haven't had enough. Apparently we are going down the Great White Porcelain Facility.
Do you think that that's because we're not seeing enough people turn out the vote?
Yeah,
especially,
I think that's the biggest thing.
Well, I think especially in church-going people, they're the ones not voting. Like, you're the ones that are going to save the country. Come on.
Because if you don't vote, I got news for you. The other side is, and they're voting in numbers. The dead people are voting, so you've got to come out and vote. It's like one of my buddies said. He said my father voted Republican all of his life until he died, and then he voted Democrat ever since.
Yes. Well, and I will tell you, one of the interesting things that I thought in our county was in the Pooler race, the current mayor, or the previous mayor now, Benton, she was running as a city council person. She did not win a seat. She was like fourth or fifth from winning a seat. She was the second to last place person.
Things are going crazy out there.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is.
But anyways, the other thing that's interesting, number one, a gas leak in the most liberal precincts in Kentucky happened yesterday. So I think that that's rather interesting, especially when you look at the down ballot races.
Was it is that very similar to, shall we say, the flood that happened in Atlanta in the 2020 election, the flood that didn't happen? It was an overflowing toilet that somebody had stopped up on purpose. Yeah,
it seems to be that way. And the thing is so Daniel Cameron, who was the Republican running for governor, did not win. However, the Secretary of State in Kentucky, Michael Adams, who is the Republican, won by 60% of the vote.
Hmm.
And the Attorney General in Kentucky, Russell Coleman, won with 58% of the vote. So you're telling me that Daniel Cameron only got 46% of the vote? Typically, Republicans are not voting for a Democrat if their life depended on it at this point because of how crazy they are.
Yeah, it's kind of like overwhelmingly, Brian Kemp got reelected. Had half of those
Here's
people
what I found.
Voted for Herschel Walker, we wouldn't have Raphael Warnock in the Senate right now. And for you people who said, I just couldn't vote for Herschel Walker, well, a pox on both your houses. Shame on you.
100%. And we're going to be fighting that battle again in 2 years to try and get rid of one of those guys. But Steve Stanton Sr. says, and child sacrifice is legal in Ohio. That was probably one of the most shocking things that I saw. But I also think when you look at the voter turnout, that's the problem. The people that will vote morally and vote with their conscience, they're not voting. You have all of these people who are on government assistance and that have been indoctrinated by these universities. Those are the people voting right now.
You think that these votes happen by osmosis? You've got to get out of the polls. You've got to start the early voting. You've got the mail-in ballots, whatever it is that the Democrats are using to win these elections now, if indeed they are winning them. But you've got to get out, and we've got to counter this. The fate of our country is at stake here. You've got thousands of illegal aliens coming in here, and they're going to be voting. You can say it's illegal or not, it's unconstitutional. Well, this administration and the Democrats have forgotten about the Constitution. We knew that during COVID. That was so blatantly obvious when Tucker Carlson, as the mayor, the governor of New Jersey, he said, under what right do you have to close all these places down and tell these people, what part of the Constitution were you using for that? And he kind of chuckles and, well, we didn't even think about the Constitution when we were doing this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there you go, Governor Murphy. And by the way, he got reelected.
Yeah, well, and here's the other thing. If abortion is not an issue that Christians are not willing to show up for, what is?
Exactly.
I can't believe in Ohio they voted for this. I'm just appalled, actually, but Lizzie Warren says Kentucky looks fishy. It absolutely does. Along with, I can't believe they called the Virginia races because of the vote switching that they saw in the machines and shut it down. Also in Appling County, they are a trial for the updates to the Dominion machines. Guess what? They couldn't upload to the Secretary of State, so they had to do everything on paper.
Paper
Imagine
ballots.
that. Imagine that.
Something we've been asking for some time now.
So quite interesting. I think that we're going to see some issues in 2024. Hold on to your seats because it's going to get pretty crazy. But that also means that we have to turn out in numbers that are unbelievable. The other thing is that if Trump is not on the ticket, Republicans are not winning. That's the other thing that the issue is you have to find a way to translate the way that Trump does. And I don't know how you do that in a state race.
I'm once again, almost words don't fail me. I'm just totally appalled. I was appalled at the midterm elections that we didn't have the red wave, and should have been a red tsunami. There shouldn't be a single person in this country that's got an IQ above a screwdriver to vote for a Democrat again. Yeah,
well, and here's the thing. If this is any indication of 2024, we're in some real trouble. We're in some real trouble. And I will tell you, we had a panel with Josh McCoon last night, who's the head of the Georgia GOP. And one of the things he talked about was just the amount of money we're having to spend on lawsuits and, the legal bills that he is seeing come through. He's like, it'll make your heart stop. I mean, it's just unbelievable. The amount of money that the party has to come up with to fight these legal battles. So, people need to start understanding what time it is in this country, and they need to get involved, and they need to figure out how we're going to start winning. The elections are what matters. I mean, if you do not vote, don't continue to complain to anyone about the situation that we're in as a country. It's pathetic that things are so bad right now, and you have voter turnout that is just abysmal.
Yeah, that we've said it until we're blue in the face that you have to. This isn't going to happen overnight, but you have to start somewhere, and you've got to get out and vote. There's no other solution to this problem. You have to get outraged, just like these stupid Palestinian protesters that are running around with their flags and that are going, by the way, to the Department of Defense today to surround that building and to demonstrate, because the Department of Defense, of course, is supplying Israel with the weapons that they need to defend themselves. It is just disgusting what's going on in this country, and the fact that you have to understand the correlation between your vote and what happens. Just like the people in Chicago right now, all upset that all these illegal immigrants are coming in here, and these migrants, and they're taking over their resources, they're taking over their buildings, they're taking over all their facilities, they're losing, they're screaming at the mayor about it, and somebody needs to tell them, you voted for this. You had a chance to vote for somebody else for mayor. Mm-hmm. You had a chance to get somebody in New York City. You had a chance to get Curtis Sliwa in as your mayor instead of this cretin that said he was a former police officer. And we've done some digging into that. He has a desk job somewhere.
Well, did you hear that the Philadelphia mayor won again? I'm like, with how that city is right now, how the heck did this person win re-election?
Exactly.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
It was a good day for incumbents and a good day for Democrats.
Yeah, well, that also speaks to maybe some laziness on the voters' part of doing some research. Mm-hmm. Steve Statton says Benton is a goofball. And is there such a thing as a fair election anymore? And I think that that's kind of where we're at in this country, is people don't believe that we have fair elections.
But sitting on your hands and saying, okay, I'm not going to go vote on principle, well, you can stand on your principles all you want to. But sooner or later, that house of cards is going to collapse.
It sure is. And I wanted to share a story that comes out of the Arlington GOP up in Virginia. Matthew Hurt is the GOP chairman up there, and he was at his fourth polling location for the morning handing out Republican sample ballots. He had already talked to the Democratic poll greeter and a few voters when this man approached him. He offered him a Republican sample ballot, and he flew into a rage, calling him names, spouting this sort of tropes in the video. Then he went into the polling location. He came back, and he had started to record. He put his phone in his pocket, and this is what that exchange looked like. This is what Republicans are dealing with.
When you fucking people tried to overthrow the election, you might as well have been walking up to my head on the way to the polling station, putting a gun in my head, trying to tell me not to vote. You expect me not to take that fucking personally? You fucking try to overthrow elections with violence, and then you're out here among decent people.
Thanks for coming out.
What do you have to say that, huh? What are your policy prescriptions?
Have a nice day. You've already
fucking rapist rights.
Yeah.
Involving yourself in people's fucking families and their fucking bedrooms.
It's pretty wild.
You fucking animal. Try to steal my vote next year, I'm gonna fucking remember you personally.
Thank you.
In fact, I'm taking a fucking picture of you. Is that all right?
Yeah, you
Permission?
can. Yeah. It's a one-party consent state.
Shitbird? Yeah, one-party state. You want a fucking one-party country is what you want.
Hey, sir, how are you? Headed in to vote? Yeah. Could I get your Republican sample ballot? Sure, thank you.
You know, try not to be buddy-buddy with these people because they put on the face of a good neighbor, but they support lynch mobs. Or they're fucking...
I can't believe people behave this way in public and go after people the way that they do. This guy's insane.
I wish he'd, you start fighting back, okay? For God's sake. Get yourself a water pistol and fill it with ammonia and just start and just shoot it in these guys' eyes or something. Won't hurt them, other than the fact that they won't be able to see for a while.
But here's the thing, Bill. They're going to be the ones that are in trouble, not this guy that is going psychotic and repeatedly saying the F word and basically calling him a terrorist.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is what we're up against.
Well, and we're the domestic terrorists. And I think that people don't understand. You guys really should watch the movie Police State by Dinesh D'Souza. It's a documentary that he just released. Mm-hmm. It is quite incredible.
Co-produced by Dan Bongino.
Yes, it's quite incredible, them talking about how they are tracking American citizens. And these are not people that have done necessarily anything wrong. It's just if you were in the vicinity of DC, if you posted this thing on your Facebook, guess what? You're on a list.
Yeah, if you're past one of the interchanges on January the 6th, there's a good chance that you're going to be investigated by the FBI.
Yeah, this is where we're at. And so if more of us will stand up and fight back, there's nothing that they can do, but we've got to stop this stuff in this country. 15 years ago, do you think you would have saw that exchange with that guy? Do you think that would have happened 15 years ago? Probably because someone punched him in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
He deserved it.
Yeah. So he truly represents the entire Democrat Party. It's very true. They're very angry.
These are the people voting. These are the ones that are voting.
Yep.
Okay. So if this isn't obvious, I don't know what is. All right, coming up next.
Well, you were able to sit down with someone that is in the thick of it over in Israel, and quite an interesting interview.
Jonathan Davis joins us from Tel Aviv. Coming up next.
The Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
I'm Brittany Brown.
I'm Bill Edwards.
We're the co-hosts of Get Real America.
We're the CEO and the president of something we call the Local Spin, and there's a reason we call it the Local Spin.
We want to cover stories that really impact your life at the local level. Don't have a local business? No problem. If you know people that have a local business, make sure you reach out to them and let them know that they should advertise on our show.
Our rates are extremely reasonable, a lot better than you find in most of the media in this town, and you will get results. I promise. You will be investing in something that's important.
If you don't have the ability to donate, make sure you like our page and share it with your friends. Have you always wanted to own a local media company? Well, now's your opportunity.
Here we are.
Make sure you become an investor today. Make sure that you go to thelocalspin.com/GRA and donate there. We want to provide an evening and morning news to you in a way that you've never seen before, but we need your help.
Yeah, this is something that what NPR said that they were supposed to be. NPR gets something in the range of $450 million of your tax money every year to slant the news the way they want to and to not cover stories that they need to be covering.
You need local media. Make sure to check us out and donate today.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Are you a mom or dad? Do you have little kids with big dreams? Well, hopefully your kids aren't white or Asian, because if they are, they will have a very hard time getting into their dream college or landing their dream job. Top schools and corporations are run by left-wing Democrats, and they openly discriminate against whites and Asians. So even if your daughter has the best test scores, even if your son has amazing grades, even if they spend extra hours studying and doing everything right, it won't be enough. Unless you suddenly discover that you're part Cherokee, or transgender, or in the country illegally. Otherwise, your kids are out of luck. Which begs the question, if Democrats are hurting your children, why would you ever vote for them? Stop the bigotry. Stop the insanity. Paid for by Citizens for Sanity.
always a pleasure to be talking to my good buddy Jonathan Davis. Jonathan, it's hard to believe that our friendship goes back going on 20 years now since I did my radio show over there. And you were kind enough to give us this great presentation and tour of the new fence and everything.
Yes, I have great memories of your visit and afterwards visiting you in Savannah
Mm-hmm.
and our common patriotic bond, belief in freedom and democracy. And yeah, we share a lot, Bill.
We do indeed. What now, Jonathan? However, I am worried about your welfare and Israel itself. Tell me what's going on over there. What's the atmosphere like on campus and elsewhere?
Well, I think that the atmosphere on campus is quite patriotic. We've got a student body of 8,000, and 4,000 are actually in reserves. So
Mm-hmm.
they've conscripted 50% of our student body. Most of our students are in combat units or in other elite units. That's the kind of university we're in. That's the profile of the average student who actually comes here.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're no stranger to combat yourself, being in the IDF back in your younger days. Were you a major, lieutenant colonel? Is that right?
I ended up being a lieutenant colonel, but in my younger days, I was in a paratrooper reconnaissance unit. I fought in the Yom Kippur War, the first and second Lebanese wars. I participated in the first and second Intifada. That I was by then in the IDF spokesperson's office because they threw me out of the paratroopers because I was I was too old. At the age of 45, they make you retire. They figure you can't see the way you used to see. But they actually transferred me to a non-combat unit, the IDF spokesman's office. Yeah.
So,
But on campus,
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. Go ahead. No, I
No,
just
thank-
want to say we've lost two students. So far, we've lost two students who were killed in action.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
One of them, by the way, one of them is an American kid, dual citizen, American and Israeli, who came from Washington D.C., immigrated to Israel. He was a lone soldier here. His parents later immigrated to Israel, and there are three of our students who were killed, murdered actually, in that big party that took place down south, which the Hamas attacked in cold blood. So we've had 5 casualties so far. We have 1 missing, and I'm expecting I hope that things go well and that we don't suffer any more casualties. But we have to be ready for anything.
Boy, you do
huge
indeed.
numbers.
Well, you're surrounded by enemies, and the Hamas, of course, being one of the most recent. And you had the worst attack on Israelis and Jews since the Holocaust just a month ago today, as we record this. And are you as shocked as I am of all the pro-Palestinian demonstrations that are going on here, England, other places that we're seeing from a generation we thought was going to be never again?
Well, it's a generation that many of the people have no idea what the Holocaust was,
Exactly.
and many of those people demonstrating don't even know where Israel is on the map. Okay, so you will find a critical mass of the people who are demonstrating who are of Islamic background, some Trotskyite, Marxist, socialist kind of background. Those same people who always like to demonstrate on campuses. You even find some radical Jewish people who, in my opinion, are relatively out of their minds. Okay, who also demonstrate there. Okay, and so and it doesn't surprise me because countries like Qatar have spent hundreds of millions of dollars in Ivy League universities creating academic chairs and donating tens of millions of dollars to various universities here, thereby supporting professors in key positions. And so it doesn't surprise me that certain universities are indebted to these donors from these Middle Eastern regions that dig for oil and use the oil money to support academic chairs. And it's funny because I sometimes see signs in these demonstrations, gays for Palestine, or transgenders for Palestine, or these different things. But it's interesting that if, God forbid, they should put up a sign like that in Gaza or in Ramallah, which is a large city in the Palestinian regions here, they would probably either be beheaded
Mm-hmm.
or they would be burned at the stake or they or something else bad would happen to them. They might be stoned to death
Mm-hmm.
also. Okay, so some of these people they have no idea what's going on. So in some of these demonstrations, you see a Muslim imam marching arm in arm with some Marxist socialist type who believes in human rights, who believes in women's rights, who believes in gay rights. But the common denominator between that socialist and the imam is that they hate Jews or hate Israel.
Mm-hmm.
So it bonds them together, which reminds me that in the Middle East here, usually the Shia and the Sunni really don't get along with each other at all.
Right.
Iran is a Shia country, and Hezbollah, which is another country north of us, with what used to be Lebanon once, which is now Hezbollah, supports Hamastan, which is where Gaza used to be. Now it's interesting that Lebanon is Shia, and the Syrians are Shia, and the Iranians are Shia. But when it comes to fighting Israel and making a nuisance out of yourself and being terrorists, they're willing to sit in the same room as the Hamas, who are Sunni. In Iraq, on any given Friday, you'll have Shia bombing some Sunni mosque, and the next Friday, the opposite. Okay, but once again, when it comes to the common denominator of fighting Israel, that's what these people do.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
When it comes to anti-Semitism, when it comes to being anti-Zionist and anti-Israel, that's frequently the situation. It's so odd. It's so odd to see some of those signs because those people would not last 1 minute in any Middle Eastern country.
Exactly.
By the way, they wouldn't last in moderate Middle Eastern countries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't be gay in Jordan and you can't be gay in Egypt. If you're gay in Egypt, it's against the law. You'll end up spending 5 or 10 years in jail for being gay. Okay, so, and those are the moderate countries. Okay, in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are more extreme countries in the Middle East, like Iran, where they'll hang you from a crane. They hang about 1,000 people a year who are gay in Tehran. Okay, but these people are still marching arm in arm with these guys, which is just fine. Okay, because it's not the leaders of Silicon Valley who are marching. It's not the people in Wall Street who are the movers and shakers who are marching, and it's not the good old American spirit that's marching there. It's not the American person from the Midwest who serves in the American Armed Forces who's marching there. It's certain minority groups like Black Lives Matter. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Martin Luther King right now would be turning over in his grave if he saw what Black Lives Matter is doing when they march in favor of anti-Semites
Yeah.
and pro-Nazis like Hamas, because the Jewish people and Martin Luther King had an alliance. Jewish people sacrificed their lives marching in Selma, Alabama.
Yep.
And Martin Luther King was a great ally of the Jewish people, and the Jewish people were a great ally of those individuals. But Black Lives Matter became a total distortion of what the original leadership of African Americans was. And they've joined forces with these individuals, and part of them are also marching together with trans and together with some of these other groups. Okay, and that's fine, but we know who these guys are. I'm not sure that these people, by the way, are the vibrant future of the United States or the United Kingdom. When I see the average profile of these people who are marching, these are also some of the people who ransack department stores. These are some of the people who make it impossible to live in city centers anymore. And people are leaving city centers because some of these same people who are marching right now. So in many ways, there may be some normative groups who also march, who maybe we should be working on having them understand what the issues are. But there are also some other people there whose minds are made up. And so I'm not alarmed by it at all, actually.
Jonathan, Vladimir Lenin called these people useful idiots, and these people were eating Tide Pods about 4 or 5 years ago, so that explains a lot. And like you said, because we don't teach history anymore, and because I have been a fan of defunding our universities and colleges and saying to start over because of all the what I see coming out. When I was working in television news, I noticed the kids that were coming in over the years were getting dumber and dumber, knew nothing about history. I had to explain to one of our anchors one time who the hell Adolf Hitler was, and this has been 25 or 30 years ago.
There's definitely more of that interview.
Yeah, we'll have more of that for you next week. But it's Jonathan Davis, former Penn University, that teaches all their classes in English and Hebrew.
Oh, wow.
It is an amazing place, and Jonathan Davis is an amazing person. He gave us a tour of the fence when I was met him 20 years ago when we were doing our show over there from Israel, run my radio show. And he and his wife Iris are just wonderful people, came over to visit us about a couple of years later. And we just had a great time together. Wonderful, wonderful gentleman. And he has more to say about all the mess that's going on over there in the Middle East. But one of the things that I was glad to hear, because the media won't tell you this because it looks like it's all war all the time over there.
Yeah.
They, they feel pretty safe. That their defense is doing a great job. The Iron Dome does a great job. And it's kind of business as usual because they're used to this stuff all the time.
Can you imagine this just being normal for you in your everyday life?
Oh, I know.
I mean, Americans would lose their minds.
Yeah. In fact, there was about 2 weeks when we got there, there was a bombing of a bus on one of the streets there. Within 2 hours, you would know nothing happened. I mean, they are so good at coming in, getting the casualties, getting the people out, cleaning up the street, and getting it back to normal. You would never know. We ate in a restaurant that had been bombed only a few months before. And
that's not one thing you want to be good at, Bill. I don't think, but that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, but they're going to survive. These are God's people, and the people who are going against them. Where are you going to spend eternity?
They're the ones that have to answer for that.
Coming up next.
Well, Rashida Tlaib answering for her calls against the Israelis. So she was crying yesterday. So.
Oh yeah. Well, you got a lot to cry about. Mm-hmm. We're going to show it to you next.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like,
rather than my skills.
I want to be judged
by my political beliefs.
I want to get promoted
based on my chromosomes. When I grow up,
I want to be offended
by my coworkers
and walk around the office
on eggshells
and have my words policed
by HR. Words like
grandfather,
peanut gallery,
long time no see,
no can do.
When I grow up,
I want to be obsessed with emotional safety
and do workplace sensitivity training
all day long. When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder
just by following the crowd.
I want to be a conformist.
I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board in America, redballoon.work.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And then the home stretch to a Veterans Day on Saturday.
It
so
sure
there'll be a
is.
parade, and we are going to honor those people who have offered to put their lives on the line for us.
Yeah, and very important day. Also, the ladies on the right, if you have not been to one of their luncheons, they are phenomenal. Stephen Friend, I don't know if you know who that is, but he's the FBI whistleblower out of Florida that actually lives at the landings.
Family.
Yes, so he's actually speaking for their Veterans Day recognition meeting, which is on the 16th, which is after Veterans Day. But if you're a veteran, that would be a great opportunity for you to go to that one. And if you want to hear what Stephen Friend has to say, he just wrote a book. Pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah.
So check that out.
FBI, one of the whistleblowers who has been totally debunked. No, he's telling the truth. He's been totally debunked by DNC.
Yes. And, Tlaib, how she keeps getting reelected is beyond me. It could be because Obama imported a bunch of Muslims to vote for her. But
yeah, you got the peace-loving Muslim community.
Yes. So she was censured yesterday.
Good for her.
Well,
good for this. Good for the House.
Yes, it definitely was. And here is her response.
Anti-Semitism makes us all less safe, and worry that your own child might suffer the horrors that 6-year-old Wadia did in Illinois. I can't believe I have to say this, but Palestinian people are not disposable. We are human beings, just like anyone else. My city, my grandmother, like all Palestinians, just wants to live her life with freedom and human dignity we all deserve. Speaking up to save lives, Mr. Chair, no matter faith, no matter ethnicity, should not be controversial in this chamber. The cries of the Palestinian and Israeli children sound no different to me. Why? What I don't understand is why the cries of Palestinians sound different to you all. We cannot lose our shared humanity, Mr. Chair.
Oh, please, spare me.
Knock
off the crocodile tears, dear. Hamas, your Palestinian friends voted for those cretins, and they are mobsters. They are monsters. They attacked it. Israel didn't do anything. Israel gave them that property. Beautiful property that's got oceanfront, and it's they could have been building hotels. It could be one of the great garden spots of the world right now, where where tourists would be flocking by the millions.
Well, and here's the other thing: no one is saying go kill Palestinians.
Exactly.
I've not heard that from anyone, and so her misrepresentation of things is definitely very powerful when it comes to rallying her base. So I think that we have to be better on making sure that people understand we're not saying go kill Palestinians. We're saying, what Hamas did to the Israelis is not okay. And unfortunately, there's no negotiating, which we used to believe this in this country. That we don't negotiate with terrorists. And these people have put so much fear into the Israelis that have to deal with that on a day-to-day, and they're allowing people from Palestine to come into Israel to work, but there's still a risk with doing that.
Yeah.
And they're still doing it. So I think that these people just live in a reality that it doesn't exist over here. We're seeing signs that say, gays for Palestinians. Those people would throw you off a building if they ran into you.
That's what Jonathan Davis was just saying.
It's unreal.
If you went over there and say we're the LGBTQ X04G XM15 symbol for boron here to help you out, you'd find your head on a stick somewhere.
Yeah, and I will say there were Democrats that voted to censure her, and she was censured yesterday. Steve Stanton Sr. says, I wouldn't show her talking about anything. The importance of showing these people and what they're saying, the reason it's important is because we need to understand these people so we can combat what they're saying and what they're doing.
Exactly.
We need to make sure that we are more in tune with what they're doing than what we're doing.
Keep your friends close and your enemies closer.
Absolutely. Well, we have got to learn to... we've got to come up with a different narrative to combat their narrative, because what's happening is they're winning the messaging war. And unfortunately, TikTok, which I believe should have been banned in this country, has manipulated the algorithms to show children and college-age students that are obsessed with this app that it's all about pro-Palestinians and they are the victims, and Israel is bad. So that's why we're seeing all of these people in the streets and tearing down posters of Israelis that are missing. And I mean, it's unbelievable.
It is. And now TikTok is now running ads telling you how wonderful they are. And these companies are saying how marvelous it is to have that app available and that platform available for them to do business. It's disgusting.
Agreed. Well, India was smart and they banned TikTok along with several other applications coming out of the CCP. So the Chinese definitely have a handle on that. And we're stupid here in the U.S. because we just allow things to happen. Lizzie Warren says, maybe if your peeps had not slaughtered Israelis a few weeks ago, things would be different.
Yeah.
Bottom line, right?
Just out of the blue.
And this story's not going anywhere. We'll continue to talk about what's going on in Israel. But
exactly.
It is impacting what's happening here in the U.S., but we're also seeing that fracture, the Democrat Party, which I think is kind of interesting to watch because we really haven't seen them derail from the top-down control that the Democrat Party has, where the Republicans were bottom-up, which is definitely a different type of problem to have. Exactly. We have a lot of personalities and a lot of people with some opinions. So it does hurt us in some ways, but I do think it also makes us stronger in other ways. But the biggest thing is show up to vote. I think that's the biggest thing that we learned about what matters.
If yesterday wasn't an example, I don't know what is.
Well, and Bill, that's the other thing. Like, what do you think people think that don't vote will solve the problems that they're seeing?
Beats me. Ask your friends, and if they didn't vote, and exactly what do you think's going to come out of that? It was the old story about the guy that was joked about the guy that was praying to God to win the lottery, and finally God speaks to him and said, "For God's sakes, buy a ticket." Your chances of winning are pretty slim, but if you don't buy a ticket, you ain't going to win nothing, ever. Praying for it is not going to get the job done.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but praying without action is a huge problem. That's they don't just say pray for things; it's pray and take action.
Yeah, The Bible says, "Seek and you shall find." What's the caveat there? The finding goes to the seekers.
We need people to really get involved and really understand that voting really is the only thing that is going to change things.
So you better get out and vote.
Or a civil war. I mean, we're headed there too. So one or the other. I mean, pick your poison. There's going to be more casualties with this civil war stuff if we don't get things under control in this country with our legislatures and our courts as well. Yeah. The federal courts, I think, are out of control as well. So
you know how Black Lives Matter loves the Civil War.
Oh yes, of course.
They're coming up next.
Well, Glenn Beck talking about how they're going to try and regulate the internet and how that will impact all information.
Not a good deal. Stick around. Stay real.
Foxy Loxy, Coffee Fox, and Henny Penny, making life better for Savannahans with their kolaches, tacos, coffees. They're just amazing. Buy local and keep the torch lit.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Boarded a plane and thought to yourself, I hope the pilot is a transgender refugee. Have you ever gone to the emergency room and said, I hope my medical team is incredibly diverse? Have you ever moved to a new city and said, I hope the police department hit its equity goals for the year? If your answer to these questions was no, if you just wanted the most qualified candidates for the job, then you are normal. But we have a lot of very not normal people running America these days. Left-wing politicians believe skin color or gender identity should determine who gets the job. Democrats used to care about the middle class. Now they just care about your race and your gender. And as long as Democrats stay in power, it will just keep getting worse. Stop the bigotry. Stop the insanity. Paid for by Citizens for Sanity.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Savannah, I'm coming home, Savannah.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
As a broadcaster of over 50 years, I have had to put up, and we in broadcasting have had to put up with the Federal Canning Company, the Federal Communications Commission, all of our lives. They regulate, and it's their job to regulate licenses and to make sure that radio and television stations are doing their best to serve the communities that they're in and to serve the public, because they say the airwaves belong to the public. So they, for a long time, the FCC pretty much left us alone. Suddenly, all of a sudden, they start getting this micro management deal. I can remember when they had they're more concerned now with costume malfunctions at the Super Bowl than they are about whether or not there's good content and whether the stations are really serving their communities or not.
Yeah, I think anytime something becomes regulated by the government, there's always an opportunity for it to go badly.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this is any different. And I think Glenn Beck raises a good point, and he explains this in good detail so people can understand what's going to happen if this goes through.
Yeah.
The Biden administration has just put forward a plan for digital equity, and it is a plan for all internet services and all infrastructure. According to FCC Commissioner Carr, President Biden's plan hands the administrative state effective control of all internet services and infrastructure in the country. Never before in the roughly 40-year history of the public internet has the FCC, or any federal agency for that matter, claimed this degree of control over it. The plan calls for the FCC to apply a far-reaching set of government controls that the agency has not applied to any technology in the modern era. You got that? This has never been done before. No communication devices have ever had this kind of control suggested by the government, let alone applied. He went on and said Congress never contemplated the sweeping regulatory regime that President Biden asked the FCC to adopt, let alone authorize the agency to implement it. Here's what's happening. As with everything else the Biden administration is doing, his broadband policies are failing. And the building of internet infrastructure in this country, the price of it has gone through the roof. FCC wants new 5G broadband services, but it's all needlessly been blocked and delayed by new broadband infrastructure regulatory red tape. So the government is blocking the private sector from doing it, and then using that to say, see, we need to take complete control. This is breathtaking control of all information. The rules that are suggested and are going to be voted on, quick, hurry, next week, the federal government has a roving mandate to micromanage nearly every aspect of how the internet functions, from how internet service providers allocate capital, where they build, to the services that consumers can purchase, from the profits that ISPs can realize, and how they market and advertise services to the discounts and promotions that consumers can receive. If passed, the FCC will be empowered for the first time to regulate every ISP's service termination terms, use of customer credit, account history, credit checks, account termination, among other items. He said, this plan reads like a document drawn up in the faculty lounge of a university's Soviet studies department. It includes plans to empower the FCC to regulate every single aspect of the internet for the first time ever. You have an FCC policy advisor who has just read the plan. He said, quote, to call it extreme or radical doesn't do this proposal justice. Phil Kerpen has just come out and said Biden is turning digital discrimination into a pretext for regulating everything for equity. This is so far-reaching that it will mean even the blaze, because we are on the backbone of the internet. We can be completely separate everything. But because we're on the backbone of the internet, we will now have to comply by government FCC regulations. I have done broadcast under FCC regulations for 48 years. I know what FCC regulations are like. I also started before Reagan, I think it was before Reagan, deregulated the radio waves and television waves. I will tell you that those regulations today would put this show out of business. I could not do what I do today if they just went back to the regulations that were in the FCC back in the 40s and 60s and 80s. I'll have more on this. This just came to my attention. I'll have more on this, but this is a very big deal.
I was shocked when I saw this.
Stunned beyond belief. And right now, there's also a proposal before Congress to keep AM radios in cars. A lot of car manufacturers had quit putting in AM radios. And especially with the coal burners, so the electric cars, because electricity interferes. If you drive under a power line or something, is up when you're listening to an AM station and you get all this fuzzy interference, because AM is affected by these different electric waves that FM is not. So they've told the electric car, if this passes, the electric car people would have to put in AM radios. It would cost them more because they'd have to bring shielding of sorts, so that the batteries that you'll have to replace at $25,000 in a few years would not interfere with the signal. Also, they're making it more difficult to file for an AM radio license, because most AM radio stations now are conservative talk stations, because those are the only ones that get ratings.
Imagine that.
Remember, the left tried their level best to come up with a left wing. They came up with, remember, Talk America, something along those lines.
I don't remember it.
And it was, I think, and they were paying an enormous amount of money to these people who were on, including the clown from Minnesota that got elected to the Senate. Was a comedian on the Saturday Night Live. Of course, I've heard funnier lines from a sinking lifeboat, but nevertheless, he gets elected to the Senate. But he had him on as one of the talk show hosts, paying him something like $6 million.
Wow!
And I think they had about 6 people listening.
That's what they do on the left.
They tried. Yeah, they tried their level best, and it finally went belly up because advertisers finally said, "This is nothing." And nobody's listening to you.
Well, and Steve Stanton Sr. says a major attack on our First Amendment. It absolutely is. And Mary McCann Highbreeder says Orwellian.
Mm-hmm.
And
George Orwell didn't miss it by much.
And here's the thing that I want people to remember. Yes, we want to be moral. We want to be ethical. But when the Democrats are in power, they go for the jugular. Mm-hmm. There is no negotiating. This is what we're doing, and you will obey us. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to either get our Republican officials to behave, to fight for us, or we need to elect new ones that will. Because we're not in a situation where we can kowtow to them anymore.
Remember their cry when they lost power, when Newt Gingrich was elected Speaker of the House, and they said, "Now don't forget about our minority, or don't forget the fact that that we're still here, we still have a voice here. Don't forget the minority rights that we have in this body," because the first time in 40 years that they had been in the minority, and Republicans didn't know how to act, and started going along with it. The Democrats still acted like they were in charge.
Yeah.
And did a lot, and we're still doing a lot of damage. And then when the Democrats retook control, when Republicans tried the same, don't forget our minority rights, said, "I'm sorry, we won, you lost. Sit down and shut up."
Yep. And it's very important. And, we'll jump into this probably a little bit more tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It just broke last night, but they did vote to reduce Pete Buttigieg's salary by $1. Don't know where this is going. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure. They're not going to.
If they pay Pete Pete Bootylicious more than $1. It's that they're spending too much. He's
Yeah.
overpaid.
Yes. Well, so anyways, I think that that's very interesting, but we'll have to get into that maybe a little bit more tomorrow as more information on that comes out and what that really means. But, remember, you can support us. We are local. We, want to do bigger things here in Savannah, and there is a lot to talk about going on in this city.
Mhm.
A lot of things that need to change, and we need to hire someone that can do investigative reporting, which is really important. That's where you get these news stories that people can actually sink their teeth into and really latch onto, and we can make changes here. So remember, you can become a member, you can donate, and if you have a business, advertise with us. If you know someone that has a business, advertise with us.
We can't work here for even $1 a year, so by all means, because that's about what we're working for at this point.
Yes.
So please help us out. We have to keep the lights on, and they charge us for this.
Yes, they do.
Mhm.
Everything costs money, and I think that that's one of the things that I'm seeing in all facets of the movement for the Republican Party is that things cost money, but financially it is hard right now. Make sure you're supporting local businesses, including us. So
Apparently, you've got plenty of extra because you just voted for more taxes. So please send us some money your way. You've got so much. Thanks.